Hello, hello, once again. Welcome to another edition of Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven, 30-year veteran writer, illustrator, editor, and publisher of comic science fiction, fantasy, horror, and role-playing games. Today is Monday, May 23rd, and we're revisiting a question from last week because the video that I did last week um, mysteriously got marked and I had to delete it, and I don't know what YouTube's problem was. So hopefully this time it won't be a problem. The question this time around is: there's another channel I regularly watch that asked what needs fixing the most in comics, and I wondered what your take was on the idea. Is it the content, the distribution, the fandom, or something else? That comes from CBP Fan. Okay. I'm going to try not to go on the rant that I went on last time. There's a lot of problems in the comic book industry, of course. Some people think it's the content. I disagree with that sentiment. I think there's a lot of content out there, plenty of it out there to be had. I think people who say there's not enough content aren't looking for alternatives. So they're just, being crybabies because they can't get whatever brand it is that they want, specifically the way they want it. And that's the fandom problem of it. Distribution is a problem, but that is also basically the fans and the retailers' causation as well. We've been trying to rebuild the distribution channels ever since Diamond monopolized 30 years ago. Or not quite 30 years ago, back in 94, 95. So what is that, 27 years ago? 28 years ago? So, even though we've started to get that new distribution diversification with Lunar and Random House and everything, that was foisted or forced upon the retailers. A lot of retailers complained about that, and they're clearly not really that interested in it. And they certainly aren't looking to engage in expanding distribution. So for a lot of comic retailers, they're choosing not to have the access to the sheer amount of content there is to choose from. And so I think the biggest problem is attitude in the industry. Attitude of creators kind of pointing fingers at one another and pointing fingers at publishers for supposed political agenda. Retailers for always having been kind of anti-independence, especially post-Diamond monopolization. Over 90% of the comic books aren't even available through Diamond today. Even if you get everything from Lunar and everything from Random House and all the other distributors that the majority of retailers are still starting to do again and are complaining about it, they aren't even getting 85 to 88% of the content because it's not available through those channels either. You have to go online to Amazon or IndiePlanet.com or Lulu.com or Comixology or some other place, Comics Drive-Thru. And those platforms aren't necessarily ready-made to give retailers the bulk order or distribution setup. And yet nobody seems to want to make it so that the content is there. It's not like the retailers are demanding Diamond go get this content and bring it to Diamond. They're not telling Lunar to do it. They're not telling the publishers that are with those other platforms, hey, go there, we'll get your books. Because even when we do go to those platforms, they're showing that they're not buying and they're not supporting. So I think that attitude has to change. And again, I do think fans need to change some of their attitudes as well. Always saying stuff like, SJWism is ruining comics, or there's nothing worth reading anymore because they've ruined my character Captain America, or might ruin my Batman, or might ruin my X-Men. The fact is, we really don't need any of those characters per se. And when I say that, what I mean is, if you don't like Nazi Captain America, go knock on John Byrne's door and ask him to bring back Torch of Liberty. Enough if you do that, enough show him, wave the money under his nose, he's going to go do it. If you don't like Marvel's FF, again, go back to Byrne. He's got Danger Unlimited. If you don't like what they're doing in X-Men, or you don't like what they're doing in Avengers or JLA, there's titles like Gladstone's School for World Conquerors by Mark Andrew Smith and Armand Villavert. There's Section Zero by Carl Kiesel and Tom Grummett. There's Perhaponauts by Todd DeZago and Craig Rousseau. Just dozens and dozens of options that I could go through for hours and hours and hours. But we're really not getting that kind of acknowledgement or support. And that's part of why we're in this situation here where Comicsgate exists. The reason Comicsgate exists is because most of these books, like Section Zero, like Gladstone's, like Perhaponauts, they all used to be available at Image Comics. They really didn't get the fan support, or rather the retailer support, I should say. I think fan support would have been there if the retailer support had been there and been properly marketed. Now, I understand retailers want to market what they've been trained to market, which is events from Marvel and DC, and it's the brands, if you will. If you buy one X book, I can get you to buy five or six Batman, so on and so forth. And the thing is, what happens when a fan gets tired of that content? You as a retailer have to have not only have the content available in your store immediately to turn over and market to them and get them off of that book so that they're not dissatisfied or disgruntled and lose interest in our hobby. But by doing so, you're becoming freer as a retailer in learning how to market the medium of comics. But because for the last 30, 40 years, we've kind of allowed ourselves to get brainwashed, if you will, as an industry, to market and promote the corporate brands, we've lost that ability. And I think that's why we're stagnant in a lot of ways. Marvel will get their books sold one way or another. And even if they don't, their corporate masters have television and film and other media that they're making money on those characters. So it's not that big a deal in the end scheme of things to take a reader who's going to not read X-Men anymore and put them on Perhaponauts, or put them on Gladstones, or put them on Section Zero, or put them on something else. The only thing is, the retailer tends to fear that if they do that, they're going to lose the sales of 5 or 6 books versus and only getting back one, unless they work extra hard to market the books. That's where us, the fans, come in. We have to market the books we like. We can't be sitting here day in, day out, week in, week out on social media, on other YouTube channels, always constantly discussing with a negative attitude. We got to change that around, and we have to fix that attitude and talk about the books that we actually are enjoying and why, and make sure that those books are in our stores and share them, not just on social media, but in the stores themselves. Mark A. Smith is here. He says, how's it going? I caught Doctor Strange 2 finally. That's cool. We can talk about that some other time. And says, thanks for the Gladstone mention. No, thank you for producing Gladstones. I really wish people who miss the old Teen Titans, or the Perez era Teen Titans or whatever, or miss the New Mutants when they were good or whatever, would go check that out on go check out Mark's page on Facebook, or the Gladstone School for World Conquerors. Just, look it up, Gladstone School for World Conquerors online. And he's right now he's in doing a special sale, I believe, to help some friends. If that's correct, I believe he's got some friends who are trying to get their family some financial help for something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but that's the sort of thing that needs to be done more. Okay, someone just asked me, should CG books be in comic shops? Yes, they should. Half these books wouldn't be in CG at all. There wouldn't be this nonsense of Comicsgate if these books were in the stores properly marketed. It's not even a question of that anymore, really. And you can say, well, Mark Waid started it because he contacted Antarctic and all that nonsense. And yes, Mark overstepped his bounds and created a mess, and that's Mark Waid's fault. But what's past is past. You kind of have to grow up now, okay? And instead of all this finger pointing and stuff, we've got a lot of different people who have some really excellent books that have been in the market for a long time. All you guys that sit there and go, whatever happened to stuff like the Maze Agency, or whatever happened to John Byrne's X-Men, or whatever happened to these books I used to read and enjoy that were independents at Dark Horse or Boom or IDW. The reason they're not there anymore is because they just really weren't supported. And you kind of have to, for all the fans that sit there and buy, 15 different Spider books and complain about it being bad, you got to make a choice. Do you really want to buy bad comics, or do you want to try and buy something else that's entertaining? Mark Andrews says it's to help a pilot from Afghanistan who's trying to get his family away from the Taliban. Yeah. I figured I didn't want to say exactly where they were from or anything necessarily, because I knew they were he's trying to get them away from Taliban forces, get the passports and stuff, and get them to safety, basically. And again, I know a lot of people who might watch the show who might go, well, that's foreign and stuff like that. Don't. You got to remember, Mark's over there in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He's teaching English as a second language. He's trying to help people over there in the Middle East. There's a lot of good people there. They're not all evil just because they're Middle Easterners. When we have terrorist forces in other countries, or even terrorist forces here at home, because we still have homegrown terrorists, unfortunately, in our country, we just don't know exactly where all they are at. You kind of have to do what you can to help one another. That's the best thing to do in the world. Which, same thing with comics. The best thing to do is try and help one another, learn about what's available out there, and share the joy of art form and our medium and our hobby with one another in a positive manner. And that's what needs fixing in comics, because we spend way too much time being negative. Okay, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I do have some other business I need to attend to, but I will be back at 4 p.m. To do some comic reviews. And until then, if you have a question for me, go to Quoth Raven LBR72 at gmail.com, subject QTR Q&A. I want to thank you all for watching, as always. If you like this episode, or you think others might, do me a favor, hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to continue to get content from my channel. As always, thank you for watching and for your support. We will be back at 4 p.m. or comic reviews. If you want to reach out to me on social media, I'm on Facebook at Lewis.BrightRaven, at Twitter at LewisBrightRave2. You can see some more of my artwork at deviantart.com/BrightRaven. You've been watching Quoth the Raven, Lewis BrightRaven, exclusively on YouTube. Again, to reach out to me on email, quothravenlbr72@gmail.com. That's for questions, comments, if you want to commission artwork, stuff like that. If I don't get back to you within a day or two, try lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. That's all for now. We'll see you later this afternoon. Until then, have a great day.